The Ultimate Journey. Episode 36. Hi, and welcome to The Ultimate Journey, Awakening to Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Frank DeGeneva, and today's episode is called Are You Bypassing? And I'm not referring here to any medical or physical ailments or any road construction of that sort. Although the word does signify avoiding or going around something, it does apply to what I'm speaking about and how I'm going to be focusing on the word bypass. Today's podcast focuses on how we bypass things in our lives, whether it be mentally, emotionally, or on a physical level, and spiritually as well. But before we move on, I'd like to ask you this. Do you ever stay silent when you should speak up, keep changing the subject in a conversation, suppress any feelings or emotions, allow people to walk over you, disrespect you, criticize you, or judge you, constantly need to be stimulated sexually? Do you indulge in porn? Do you love to masturbate? Are you doing it too much? Have you ever had an affair? Do you like to get high, drunk, snort cocaine? Do you like speeding in your car? Are you a thrill seeker? Do you like jumping out of planes? Do you work out way too much, like running in weights, like you have to do it every day? Do you binge watch TV shows? Do you play video games all day? Do you love gambling? Do you love to shop? A lot, in the store or online? Do you bury yourself into work, or, you clean the house top to bottom all the time? Are you always on your phone, on social media? Do you often pop Advil or Tylenol? Do you go for the chips, for the carb foods, stimulants? Do you take antidepressants or mood stabilizer or anti-anxiety agents? Are you deeply religious? Do you trust your government? Are you always going to the doctor? And I can keep going on and on and on. So what am I getting at? I can hear you now. What are you talking about, Frank? Without judging or assuming that I know you, I feel that what's going on here with all these behaviors are that you are trying to bypass on some level your pain and or seek pleasure to numb it away. Now, again, I'm not judging here. It's how we are wired. Our subconscious mind has been designed to protect us. It avoids pain and seeks pleasure. That's the typical psychology 101. We are moved towards pleasure and moving away from pain. It's a natural response, and basically it's our wiring. It's in our DNA. Whenever we bypass anything, we're avoiding the pain that it causes. And if it applies, our responsibility to address it. Now, there are so many reasons why we do this subconsciously or even consciously sometimes, but it almost always boils down to trauma and our inability to deal with that. So it gets tucked away somewhere, and then it comes up as our experiences that we try to avoid. Now, our best way to deal with this is to ignore it or to blame others for that, thus deflecting our responsibility for it. This often puts us in a powerless, a victim, poor me identification or identity, and we look outwards to an authority to resolve that, or to resolve whatever happened to us. It could be government, it could be to religion, or to the church, or whoever. We often deflect or transfer our responsibility onto another. It could be a lover, a friend, a prophet or a savior, whoever and whatever, as long as we don't have to deal with it ourselves. This is what the bypassing is. We do this spiritually as well. We just focus on the love and light. That's all it is. Nothing else matters. There are shadows and demons and dark nooks and crannies that we don't put our awareness on, and that's dangerous. That we're bypassing even a spiritual level. We can be addicted to the blissful and the love and peace love, but we can also be addicted to the pain. This is where we identify with our story, all the bad things that ever happened to us. It's almost like we have a right or a badge of honor saying, I am suffering. And then we expect others to fix it for us, like I mentioned before. And when they fail, and they will, because they got their own shit to deal with, we can blame them, thus perpetuating our story and the deflecting of taking responsibility and ownership of our crap. This keeps us powerless and codependent, gives us the excuse. It gives us permission to ourselves not to deal with it, So we go to our favorite means of anesthetizing, numbing, distracting, and all the things that we do. What I asked you in the beginning of the podcast, if you have to drink all the time or always be high, what are you running away from? What are you hiding? Yeah, it feels good, but what are you replacing it with? We got to start taking our power back and facing what is hidden within us. Our subconscious minds, our bodies, our minds, our spirits all have an innate barometer. We have instincts, we have gut feelings, we've got all these indicators to tell us something's off. Yet, how many times have you bypassed or denied your gut instincts, your feelings, your morality or values because they were too painful for you to face? Are you staying in a toxic relationship where you're not being respected or valued because you're too afraid to rock the boat? Do you get drunk and stoned and, indulge in certain things just so you don't have to deal with it? Are you really living? You're just going through the motions, being numbed out and just say, it would be worse if I left, thinking that's probably worse not being in that toxic relationship or situation or whatever. It's staying at that crappy job or whatever. We bypass and we deny the feelings of that our body's telling us to stop by doing denial, numbing, distracting, all these things that we do not to face our pain, our displeasure of something. I'm not saying to be a snowflake, but how many of you have endured shit that you're sick and tired of doing it? I mean, we've all been through bullshit. Everybody has a story. Everybody has pain. Everybody has crap that's happened to them. But there's a point where how much are you going to take? How much crap are you going to take to be unhappy? How much suffering do you have to go through? Are you suffering just to suffer? Are you carrying that cross to say, oh, poor me, like I'm a good soul because I'm suffering? No, that's bypassing too. It's time to snap out of it, to face everything that's pulling you down, that's giving you pain. Face it full on. Let it consume you. Step into the fire and let it burn away everything that's holding you down. Allow the flames to scorch away all the excuses and all the blaming and the artificial walls that you try to hide behind. Let it ignite your heart and your passion and your desire to live your life fully. You'll only heal when you step into the pain and move through it. By trying to stay inside your comfort zone, which I call the death zone, you're building more and more pain that you eventually have to experience. You're only kicking the can down the road. You're incurring more debt with high interest, and you'll have to pay it off. Keep taking out more loans. Jack up your credit card so you keep buying more useless crap that you can think will give you pleasure. The blade of that guillotine is raising higher and higher, ready to be dropped on your head that you've buried in the sand. Go overdose on that pleasure, but eventually it's going to kill you. Even a drug addict won't stop chasing their fix, even when they're facing death. Losing their family, their friends, money, their self-respect. Do it till you die, baby. They all know this, but the pleasure is better than facing the pain. Although it may not be as intense, we do this every day with everything, with food, with people, with our behavior, with everything. And if you turn your nose up at someone who is struggling with addiction, consider this. Do you know anyone who is a type 2 diabetic that has become that way because of, eating an improper diet? And did you know that sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine is? And that it lights up way more areas in the brain? If you or someone you know shoots up insulin so they can continue to eat cakes, donuts, and pop every day, do you judge them? I mean, if they can manage their diabetes with diet alone, do you tell them to stop eating junk? I mean, there's no difference here. I can even say the same with people who need their coffee to function every day. There's no judgment here, just the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. What I'm inviting you to do is to actually go right into the center of the pain, of the discomfort, of the bad memory, or whatever you're trying to bypass. Feel the headache and crappiness after a night of excessive drinking. Endure the pain from working in the garden, ripping out the bushes and landscaping. That's what I did yesterday, and I feel kind of sore. But you know what? It's the feel-good sore muscles after a good workout. It's cause and effect. Whatever you do, own it. Take responsibility for it. Instead of getting drunk on pleasure or just passing the buck of responsibility and blaming everybody except yourself. Again, there's no judgment here, but I know people that pop Advils and Tylenol like they're candy. If they feel just slightly some little pain, they just numb it out. Now, this is totally different if you have chronic pain. Chronic pain comes after you don't address, again, bypass signals that your body sends to you to say something's wrong. We just numb it out, just put the bucket of water on it and not face it head on. Ignoring something will not make it go away. Well, if you're talking about your teeth, then yeah, if you ignore your teeth, they will go away. But with everything else, it will grow teeth and they'll get sharp and they'll keep biting until you pay attention. Anything chronic surfaces when we bypass or ignore for too long. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox now and stop splaining to you. I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell, for those that know me, is I just see it and I wish I could just fix it. Not like in numbing or just not going through the due process of dissolving, integrating the lessons of the healing. I just wanted to make you aware of how we bypass in our lives through all levels and areas of our lives, whether it's spiritual, personal, emotional, whatever. We tend to bypass and to deflect any ownership or responsibility. So I invite you to look in your life, all the ways that you avoid things, whether it's your emotions that not honoring, whether it's your lover, spouse, family member that you're ignoring them. When they call mommy, daddy, whatever, and you're ignoring them. How does that child feel when they're neglected, when they're not heard, when they don't have a voice? What happens to them? They internalize the stuff. They get all weirded out. They might have issues or, unresolved traumas that they don't feel safe to share. And they internalize it. And then guess what? These wounds will mess them up and they'll be behind like an evil marionette or puppeteer guiding their behaviors for self-sabotage, for punishing themselves, reckless behavior, just to get away from the pain. They'll do whatever it takes for them to be heard, get the approval by thrill-seeking, by doing all these behaviors that we do to numb, distract, or get what we need. Our children watch us, and they will replicate and mimic what they learn. Just like we don't want to neglect or avoid or deny our child or our children, we shouldn't do that to our inner child or our inner voice, our inner being that so desperately wants to be heard, to be listened to, to have a voice, to heal. We just have aspects in ourselves that we tuck away, we hide, we bury, and that's not healthy at all. That leads to disease and to self-sabotage, abuse, and a whole bunch of mental health stuff. So, what am I saying? What am I saying? I'm saying everything and nothing. If this resonates, it'll sink in. If it doesn't, then it's nothing. It's just noise, more distraction. If a part of you resists what I'm saying, then maybe that's another bypass. So I'm going to conclude this episode on that note. So thank you for joining me on the Ultimate Journey, Awakening to Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Frank DeGenova.